Welcome back to episode 4 of season 2 of Cbus Mob. Today, I have a classmate of mine, Ajmeri Hoque of Ajmeri Hoque Law, and soon to be Judge Hoque on the episode. And I am super excited. She is going to talk about how having a diverse community is so important to representation in the criminal justice system and how she pushes through all of her goals without a fear of failure. It's a great conversation, and I hope you tune in. Welcome to Cbus Mob. I am your host, Allison Harrison, and I am here with our guest, Ajmeri Hoque.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ajmeri. I am a local criminal defense attorney, and I do some guardian ad litem work, as well as felony work and a little bit of civil,
just enough to stay relevant. And you are running for Franklin County Judge.
Yes, I am running for Franklin County Municipal Court Judge.
Yes. All right, we'll talk about all of this. So I want to start with how you started your own firm, because while you are a criminal practitioner, you also are a law firm owner. So how did you make the leap to owning your own law firm?
So my journey, I think, is a little bit different from what you would expect. But I was a prosecutor before I joined a private defense firm. And then my partner died. And he was the one that actually established the firm in the beginning. And when he died, he was only 34. It was very sudden. And I basically had no choice. I had to take it over. I had to put it in my name. I had to kind of just do all of the steps to keep it going. And that's how it started. And that is not to say I hadn't thought about it before. I actually had thought about it. I talked to my partner about it even before joining him. When I had talked to him about it, that's when he had said, well, why don't you just join me? So it had always been in my mind that I would want to open my own firm. I just never expected it to happen the way it did.
I don't think most people would expect it to happen that way. What were like your first realizations after the shock had passed that like it's yours now to run with?
It was putting it in my name, I think, was the biggest one. It went from a different name to my name. The law firm is Ajmeri Hoque. And that was when I was like, well, this is mine now and I have to run it and I have no choice and I have to keep going. And that's when you just move forward.
Did you ever think, no, I can't do this. This isn't for me?
I think, of course, there's doubt always when you are starting something new, when something happens suddenly. I will say a lot of my skill set of just taking something in an emergency and going with it, it comes from my background of just being an immigrant person in this country. I don't have fallback option. Like my parents didn't come from money. We had to struggle for everything that we had when we first came to this country. We came with nothing. And so I have to succeed. If I want to continue to work, continue to make money, I don't have an option of C, D, and E. My other option is, okay, maybe I join another firm, but I really wanted to make this work. Like I said, I had thought about it before. I had conversations about it before. And so now that this opportunity had opened up, it was just like, this was it. And I had to go forward.
Yeah, I always think like in every kind of thing that happens that's not positive, there is a silver lining that you can find. And it looks like you found it of like, okay, this is mine to run with. How do I do that?
And I try my best to honor the work that my partner had done previously. We both came from immigrant families. His father was Palestinian. His mother is Puerto Rican. And so they're both alive. His father is Palestinian. And we had a lot of clients who came from immigrant communities in Columbus. And so I try to always continue that work as well. So whatever I'm doing, I'm also making sure that I honor where I come from and where I got started from.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because I know we've had coffee a number of times and I think referred a few things back and forth, but you've really developed a stronghold in some of the immigrant communities, specifically Bangladeshi, correct?
Yes, I'm born in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
I speak the language. My parents came to this country when I was a toddler. So I am very integrated into the Bangladeshi community. I'm also Muslim, so I'm also very integrated into the Muslim community. So I do have a lot of clients, a lot of family, friends who need help. And that's who I do my referrals out to. And that's who mostly come to me for help.
And I feel like, at least when we look at a legal community, that seems atypical, right? You're not an immigration attorney, which is where I think a lot of folks are like, oh, that's kind of who's working with the immigrant community, but that's not what you're doing. How did that set you up to serve everyone that you are serving and also help your firm kind of grow?
So there is definitely a need for more attorneys with an immigrant background in the criminal defense world. We see it in court. I see it in court. We see a lot of immigrant first-gen families in court that they don't know the system. Immigration is a need. It's definitely a need for a lot of folks to be in. I do believe that in Columbus, there are very, very good immigration attorneys who are filling that space and that need. Me. In the juvenile court system, if you go onto the 5th floor of Franklin County Common Pleas Juvenile Court and you ask for a Muslim attorney, it's me. You ask for a South Asian attorney, it's me. And that's shocking to me because we are in such a diverse community in Franklin County. And I cannot believe that we are so limited in the defense part of the legal field and who's representing folks. And that's a big need that I think it's going to be, need to be filled in the future because I can't do this work anymore as I transition to become a judge. But even in the criminal defense world, there's only a handful of us. And again, there's going to need to be more people who step in and be able to represent folks that need it.
Well, I think that's in the entire attorney service role. I as a civil litigator, right, we do represent a lot of minority-owned businesses, a lot of recent immigrants or first generation, and there are not a lot of other attorneys that work in that space. I would say, well, there are certainly attorneys that work in that space and take money for it, but I think there's definitely an opportunity for more folks to work in that space and support the community in the way that is respectful. I don't know if that's...
No, I understand. I absolutely understand what you're saying. I mean, this is why I do refer clients to you because I feel like you understand the community. You've worked with enough of them that you understand the nuances, the cultural differences, maybe what they need without saying what they need, because I think a lot of it is also lost in translation too. And if you work with folks long enough, you understand what they're trying to say. And I think that that is something that's a learned skill. That's not something people are going to teach you in law school, but that's something that's a practice skill that you learn after you come out and start practicing.
It definitely is. All right, I want to talk to you about running for judge because I saw a headline and I felt a little dumb for not knowing it, but you will be the first Muslim judge in all of Ohio to take the bench?
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, it is insane. There's only a handful of Muslim judges in the country anyway. President Biden was the first president to appoint a Muslim woman to be a federal judge. Yeah. And that was just a couple of years ago. And she also happened to be Bangladeshi, but there's only a handful of Muslim judges in the country.
That is insane. As big of a melting pot as we are as a country, and as well as how prevalent in some regions, not throughout the country, the Muslim religion is. I was just flabbergasted. Do you feel a lot of pressure because of that?
I don't know if I feel pressure. I think I was not expecting this to be such a big deal for so many folks as it is. Maybe it was just me being just a little slow on that. I don't know. I think I was just so focused on trying to achieve this that I don't think I took the time to just take in what it means for everyone. And as I'm talking to more folks and more folks are just, reaching out to me, I see it now that it does mean so much to so many folks. And I just want to make sure I do a good job and that I represent folks well. I think the biggest part of it is just making sure that whatever I'm doing is for good. And I know that sounds so cheesy and it's kind of cringe, but it's a service job. It is a public service job. And that is the forefront of what I have to remember in all of this is that you are here to serve the public. And this is not something that for personal benefit. I mean, for sure not, because as a private law firm owner, you're making more money, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But
yeah,
but this is more than
nicer office.
Yeah, this is more than that. This is, I want people to be able to look at this role and say that they see themselves represented. They see folks who understand where they're coming from. And then also not just the immigrant background, but my own career background of being a criminal defense attorney, being a private attorney, not being a sitting prosecutor. I was a prosecutor for a couple of years, but not being a public defender. I bring a perspective that's not normal on the bench. And I think that that's also needed.
Yeah, and I should know you were running unopposed in the election, which is why we're presuming that you will take the bench because there's not an opposition on the ticket. Yeah. So with that, you kind of know when your private practice end date is because you know when you have to take the bench. I mean, how do you work on wrapping down something you've spent over a decade? How long have you been running your firm?
So I've been in private practice since 2015. My partner died in 2019. So it's been in my name for 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
6 years.
It seems like a long time Long time and not that long ago when your partner died, because I remember that. But what's it like to wrap it down after you've been running with it for 5, 6 years?
I had been trying to get this position for a while, so I had some steps in place that I just needed to kind of press play and get it started from the beginning when I did get the nomination. I have been talking to all my clients, making sure that they know when my end date is, and a lot of it, because I do a lot of that criminal defense work, is it's going to be wrapped up very soon. I've stopped taking felonies, obviously, because they can't be wrapped up, but a lot minor misdemeanors, a couple of family cases, they'll be finished by then. And if they're not, my clients know that they can just tell me when they want me to refer them out. So far, everyone has asked me to stay on as long as possible. So I've told them, I'm like, well, okay, I'll stay on as long as possible, but this is my definite end date. So, at that point, you'll have to get someone else.
Yeah, they're going to be like kicking and screaming, saying like, no, can't you still take this? I'm sure of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really flattering that so far all of my clients have said, just I would like you to stay on as long as possible. I understand there's a comfort level there too. And when you have a new attorney, it's almost as if they have to start all over. So they don't want to do that either.
Yeah, because I think something that is hard is as attorneys, and I think in any service-based professional arena, there's so much that's in our brains that we retain. And as much as we try and take notes and put it in a file and make it an easy handoff, some of it is the intangible things that you can't necessarily note of, like, oh, this person, talks a lot. This person is always going to ask for a phone call, even though you explained it thoroughly. And you can note that, but to live it is very different. Do you find that?
Oh, yeah. And then also family dynamics. I mean, there's always family members involved or other loved ones, and making sure you get those relationships right is also important.
How do you think some of that's going to translate to your service on the bench, because you've been in those dynamic situations?
I really hope to be understanding of that. I'm on the campaign trail, I really try to tell folks that my goal is to take barriers away from people. That's been my goal as a defense attorney, and that's going to continue to be my goal as a judge. I've, built my practice in a way that I go out to folks. So my clients, I've been to their homes. I go to their workplaces. I meet them in jails. I meet them in mental health facilities. I meet them where they are, because I don't want to be the person who adds that barrier and says, you know what, why don't you come downtown to me when there's parking issues, there's transportation issues, there's job issues. And when they're already struggling and they're already in this criminal justice cycle, I don't want to be the person that adds that to that. So I hope to be a person on the bench who continues that type of philosophy where I'm taking the barriers away from folks and not adding to that.
That's awesome. Because in the legal system, there are so many barriers for someone who's not familiar.
Yeah. And I think the fact that, like, I have been on construction sites, I have been to mental health facilities, I've been in foster homes and also residential treatment centers. That's a perspective that I don't know how many people on the bench actually have. And that's just because of their background, their government attorneys or whatever.
Sure.
But I know what the inside of those things look like. And when they're coming to me and people are coming to me and I'm on the bench and they're saying, well, my kid is here and I have to do this work and I have to go to this rehab center, I know exactly what that rehab center is going to do. I've been inside them. I've met my clients there. I've talked to the facility organizers, that type of thing. I think that adds value to the bench.
I mean, how did you, as you were developing your practice, make it a conscious effort to meet people where they are? Because I think sometimes as attorneys, we're just like, well, you come to me, like we meet in my mahogany desk office kind of mentality. How did you?
A lot of it was just like my clients couldn't come downtown. It just was, they were missing meetings. They couldn't make it. And I finally got tired of it. And I was like, all right, why don't I just come to you? And I am a driver. Like, I like driving places. I enjoy putting on some music, putting on a book or whatever, and just making the drive. So I have been to like Zanesville even to meet with folks, just because it's, it's not that it's not that far. It's just that, it gives me time to decompress, but also they can't say I didn't make the effort. They can't say that I'm not giving my all to my clients and the families who I'm trying to help. And I think that's part of being an eldest daughter immigrant background, thing too.
I mean, go ahead, give me birth order. My wife loves to talk to me about birth order.
Okay, well, tell her I'm an eldest daughter. I'm in an immigrant household. So let's see what she says.
She'll have like a whole laundry list. I'm the youngest child, and she's always confused by that. So,
Okay.
yeah. All right. So I have so many other questions that I want to ask, but I want to keep it short. Like, how do you think being an immigrant, being a woman, being all the if we check the box, right, that are not, the majority, how has that impacted your career? We've talked a little bit about it with work ethic, but is there something where you're like, I hit these barriers and this is how I plowed through them, or it opened doors? I'm just curious.
Well, I will say that non-white folks are the majority, right? We are the global
Yes.
majority, but in the legal field, we are clearly not the majority. When I was a prosecutor, I was in Lancaster, which was over a decade ago. And it was interesting because I had just come back from New York City. I had practiced there for a couple of years, and I was here in this small town
What a culture
being a
shock.
prosecutor. It was a culture shock, but also it felt kind of familiar because I had grown up in suburbs and in white majority places for the most part. And it was just making sure that I was doing my work and kind of not making problems, but I also have a big mouth and I couldn't shut up sometimes too. So it's a little bit of both. I think no matter what, wherever you're from, whatever boxes that you check that where you don't feel like you fit into whatever is the norm, you have to find what your comfort level is in pushing boundaries and barriers. And that's what I've tried to do for most of my life. And in the legal field, I will say a lot of it was more I was a woman than anything else. Most people in the beginning didn't think I was an attorney. And it was not because of my skin color. It was because I was a woman. They were like,
Same.
oh, are you the secretary? Are you the whatever? And I'm like, no, I'm coming into court in a suit,
It's
you know.
so interesting you say that, because I did a panel for law students and they're like, how does being queer, have you been discriminated? And I said, yes and no, but it's because I've shown up as a woman, right? But I haven't had that recently. Was that early in your career?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah. So it was not recent. I mean, I remember at one point a judge had referred to me by my male client's name and said, oh, are you Mark or something or whatever it was? I was like, no, clearly not. I'm representing him, but okay. And this was,
Yeah.
before the consciousness of society now where we don't try to label folks, but this was way before that.
I remember going to court once, and it was mayor's court, and the presiding judge, not an attorney, looked at me and said, are you here for this case? And I said, yeah. And he goes, but you're a lady. And I was like, yep, sure am. I'm glad to hear that you also like have moved. I want to say you, but I think collectively those sort of comments have faded a little bit to the background. At least I hope, because I have not
Mhm.
heard them. Maybe it's the crow's feet I'm getting, where they just like are like, she's weathered and isn't going to be challenged. I don't know, but
I mean, whatever it is, whatever helps stop the comments, right?
right, right. Well, do you have any advice for someone who is looking to run for office that would be not a white male candidate, right? I think that's what we think of as the majority, but you lovely pointed out that non-white folks are the majority. Would you have any advice for someone who's either running for judge or running for office or thinking about starting their practice on, how to lean into who they are?
Do it. Do it now. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Really, like, think about the worst that can happen. You don't get it. Okay, so what? You try again. Really, like when you think about running for office, opening a business, you can fail. Of course, I have failed before. I have run for office before and I have lost. Okay,
Yeah.
move on. I mean, you're not gonna die. Like, let's hope
Yeah.
so, right? We
Right.
gotta put things in perspective. I just feel like if you really want to do it, just do it. Just do it. The only person stopping you is you.
Yeah, no, I have said this. I have given very similar advice, and people just looked at me and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, That's the advice. Is like, go, try." Like, as a business owner, the worst you're going to do is probably lose a little bit of money.
Yeah.
As a political candidate, I think the worst you can do is lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, as long as you're conscious about, if it's a business, controlling your finances so you don't lose big, there's not much else there that is going to stop you except for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I know the economy is not great right now and finding a job is more difficult than normal, but we've survived that. You and I, we went through the financial crisis, all of that. You will land on your feet. Eventually, People will land on their feet. You just have to keep trying. It's when you stop trying, that's when it's like, oh, well, nothing worked out. But you have to keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that strong self-motivation. I think to me it's do it, but be passionate. Because if you're not passionate, you're not going to have the relentless mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to want to do it. You have to want it really bad, especially if you want your own business, because to be fair, the first few years is going to be really tough on your hour. Like you're going to have a lot of hours that you're going to do. Your family is going to have to sacrifice a little bit, but it will work out in the end. It will. You just have to keep trying. So do it. Just do it.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. Is there anything else, any other bits of wisdom you would like to impart on our listeners?
No, I think you've covered it all.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you on the bench in 2026.
Thank you, Allison. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you, Ajmeri.